What about Na Kuja Abad?
Allahu Akbar. Oh. I mean, that every time I hear it, my heart stops. Now, I mean, that's what a name. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. Shaykh Sohrawardi. Allahu Akbar. There is so much talk about his Hikmat al-Ishraq. And every time I read some comments, but even the old ones, they're genuine and real and deep. But it's like everything else in that no man's land between reason, mind, intellect, rationality, senses, and that which is absolute. It is the dilemma of the absolute and the relative. So they try to make comments on Nakuja Abad, that which is a perfect place and not a place. So that's so we as human beings are really caught in between that which is changing, relative, uncertain, and that which is the ultimate drive and desire in our hearts, which is the state of our own soul. It knows perfection, it knows timelessness, it knows infinitude, it has no fear of beginnings or ends, or change or uncertainty. And that's what every one of us yearns for. That is what brings about humanity. If we talk about humanity, unity of mankind, these are all words simply alluding to the truth that within every heart of a human being there is an amazing bundle of light which transmits all what there is in the cosmos. So nothing as such will ever be enough, because that light depicts infinitude, not containable within space and time. And yet my mind grapples with space and time. Every one of us is puzzled, is dazzled, is challenged, and is confused by space and time. And so long as we are alive within the body, we have to address it, because the mind searches for connectedness, cause and effect, good and the bad, beginning and end, acceptable, rejectable, he, she, you, I, on and on and on. We have no option other than responding to that. No option also other than wanting to know what is the other side of the mountain. And that which we are looking for, which we think is the other side of the mountain, is already on this side of the mountain. It more or less tells us it is neither here nor there, and it is everywhere and nowhere. So that's Nakuja Abad. That which is not a place, but the perfect place. Meaning, it is not within space. It is a state. And we are as good as our own state. You, I, he and she are as well as our calibrating, our minute-to-minute condition with that state of ever-perfect contentment, presence, which defies beginnings or ends or time. That is the story. And all great world religions and practices is for us to complete that job. We are incomplete. We are suffering and grappling with dualities. Not until we realize the dualities are shadows and shades covering the perfect eternal unity. Once we know they are emanating from unity, and they can never, as long as one is alive in this phase, in this space and time, you cannot eradicate it. It's part of nature. And if you try to go against nature, you end up, as we have done it collectively, destroying what has been developing, evolving for millions and millions of years. And we end up with extinction. But if we drift along that zone and flow with it, then we complete what we are here for, which is connecting the limited, the conditional, with that which is boundless and unconditional. So ultimately it goes back to the same issues. So what is the purpose of life? If you don't do it, you suffer. And if you do it, you realize there is a movement along the ladder of consciousness. If you use the idea of a spectrum of consciousness, then it's very, very helpful. And you can go along one's own biography, the childhood consciousness, the intermediate adolescence consciousness, the grown-up consciousness, the old person's consciousness, and on and on. You find all of it is like climbing a ladder from base into that which is beyond any horizon. And they are in us at all times. So the only thing an intelligent, rational person do is to calibrate. It is a limited situation, you know. I'm resting or sitting or talking. It's limited. It has a beginning and an end. But it's energized by that zone which is beyond beginnings and end. So once that is reconciled, then you are at the beginning of contentment. There is nothing more important than this. All of our day-to-day practices, do the right thing, the right time, the right place, don't disturb too much, and if you do disturb, let it be for the common good, for that which lasts longest, for the best of all, and so on. Then you have authority. And authority doesn't mean you're right and so on. You may be absolutely right, but you can't apply it in a situation that does not accept it. And that brings us to the issue of evolution and revolution. They're both together. There is revolution every instant. Within you, within everybody, there are revolutions taking place within our organs. And all the attempts to maintain the balance of one's health is again revolution and evolution. Evolution appears to be slow. Revolution appears to be fast. But shrink that time span and you find every instant of evolution has within it revolution. So it depends what time span, what space distance you are looking at. They're inseparable. And that's why the yin and the yang emanate from a dot. Beginnings and end are inseparable. Starting gives you the whole story of destiny, of the ending. But in the meantime, in terms of consciousness, there is a trend, there is a movement, there is a cycle. So that is the story of Nakuja Abad. That state which is ever perfect, but it is not definable, it is not containable. It's the definition of Godhood, reality itself or truth itself. You cannot compartmentalize it. Now, a wise or a grown up, mature person likes to know the truth. So he say, you've lied. And then he said, but you've been lying all the time. But you know it is a lie because there is a spark of truth in it. So it is through truth that you know falsehood. So there is only truth in reality. But it's too intense, too immense, too powerful. So it's diluted until it becomes the flicker of life we have. So it's for that reason, if you are truly eager to touch upon the zone of higher consciousness, then don't be surprised, you will be shocked. You will even feel that it is very, very high voltage. So do it in an evolutionary way. But every now and then you find yourself in a plateau. So it is evolution, revolution. And the story is that you're moving from the confinement of the lower self or the shadow to the vastness of cosmic light itself. From all the creatures, creations, the animals, to the source of life itself, which is in every heart. So for that reason, we have to respect life no matter where or how, because it has in it the characteristic of the life giver. The most important aspect is continuity. Whatever is living wants to continue. Whatever is alive wants to continue perpetually expressing life, because the nature of the source is timeless, continuous, samadiyya, forever. So we've been touched, or the divine breeze or nefes has touched that. So it is sacred. And that's why I said if you kill one person, you have killed the whole of creation. It is like that. It's that sameness. But it comes in different times, in different garb, in different fashion, in different shape. But life is life. The only difference is that that bundle of light, which we call soul or spirit, is different. It's not the same between an ant and a rabbit. But for human beings, potentially that bundle is exactly the same. But because it has to function within an instrument, the wholesomeness of that instrument, which is your body and all the organs and all of the other subtler aspects of your mind, thoughts, feelings, they need to be in harmony. Otherwise, you have a faulty cosmic instrument. It's the most intricate, the most complex instrument ever. Can you imagine all the millions and millions of tests that this instrument provides for us? You smell something, immediately it goes into the thousands, into the previous calibrations. What smell is it? Sweet, sour, I like it, I don't like it. The olfactory glands immediately test that smell and give you a report. And that report is compared to the previous memory you have. What about taste? What about touch? What about pressure? What about humidity? What about heat? There are thousands of laboratory tests within us take place instantly, and we take it for granted. And so it's the most amazing, intricate, sacred instrument. It's sacred. Who are you touching? What are you touching? Whose authority? So it's for that reason people are very strict on the path. They're aware of what you're doing, why, now, later, by whose authority? So you're aware of awareness of awareness. If you do that, then you have least regrets, least fears or sorrows or guilt, because you are aware. Now, if you're aware, you may, according to many others, you're making a mistake. But for you, if you are put in the same position, many years later, you'll do the same thing. Because of your calibration is the same. But for other people, they measure it only in the relative sense of space and time. No, it was raining and cold and so on, and you came with a very flimsy shirt and so on and so on. But you were perhaps testing your connectedness with the cold wind. So you may do the same thing. If you're aware of awareness, then you will repeat the same mistake according to the others, and according to you, you have no option other than doing what you did. So the human being is the most amazing cosmic instrument. So you have to regard it as such, respect it as such. But if you're subjecting it to all kinds of undue stresses, pressures, running here and running there to catch this and catch that, and miss this and don't miss that, so you end up with all kinds of dangerous creatures, as we have so many of human beings have been put in those positions. So it is basically a lot of survival mode. And people degenerate because of survival mode necessitates them to lie, to cheat, to do this and that. So they end up being exceptionally, if you like, difficult human beings. Their conduct, their character, their behavior is not acceptable, causing much more damage. So that is how the situation is. And the individual and the collective resonate together. If you don't resonate, that's why you like to emigrate. You leave the place or denounce or whatever. Go somewhere else. And that's what happens in a lot of cases nowadays. 200-300 years ago, there was very little opportunity. You were born in a village, in a town. Most of the people livelihood was based on agriculture locally. So you had no option. Of course, the population was a fraction of what it is now. But at this time and age, we have very little excuse other than to wake up. To what? To truth in its relative sense. Yeah, I tried to pretend. I wanted to be this, that. So you're truthful to yourself. And we love the attributes of truth itself. The attributes of truth is perpetuity, is forever, is beautiful, is majestic, it is acceptable, is desirable, all of the attributes. So you realize that you are hooked to be in absolute adoration and commitment and obsession with truth itself. And how does truth appear? As life. So you're obsessed with life. And life carries all these attributes, which each one of us wants to maintain. You're not too reliant on too many things, You know that you need to have a bit of this and a bit of that, but this is understandable. You don't want to be too needy or too greedy. And then you begin to understand even some of the qualities that we do not consider to be virtuous have the other side of them is virtuous. Take greed. We denounce greed. But why is there greed? Why is there the love of speed? Why do we love speed? Instantly you want to be the other side of the world. It's because your soul is not subject to distance. It is not confined to space and time. So you and I who are alive because of that, we too don't want to be confined to space and time. Greed, the soul has no need, is ever content. So I, who was mimicking the soul, want to be like the soul, so I have endless greed. No matter what you give me, it's not enough. Maybe enough now, but if you tell somebody you have 5 minutes to make a list of everything you want, You know, if they're really intelligent, even when they are giving you the list, they would like to have a bit of a reserve. What if tomorrow I want something else? Can I not ask tomorrow? in case. We want to, because we know we are deficient as animals, as creatures subject to space and time, and we want to be beyond efficient. We don't want to have needs. We all want to be content, irrespective. So it's all of it is a practice. If you are content when you are given the notice that you only have one day to live, and you are equally content if you're told, no, we don't know, maybe you live another 20 years or 40 years of suffering. So if you're as cheerful, then you are calibrated. Your lower self and your soul are in cosmic dance and unison. They are in the perfect cosmic entanglement. And that is what the purpose of life is. And the way to it is as you are, where you are, who you are. You don't need to change anything other than accept your limitations at every level. Physical, material, mental, emotional, accept the limitation. And sit there, watch it. And you find it's just not there. Take even some of the so-called lower emotions. Take anger. If you manage to do a slow motion movie of yourself being angry, you're beginning more and more, if you like, agitated, explosive, slow, watch it. You'll begin to laugh at yourself. It's idiotic. Anger is actually expressing disappointment, which means you had not evaluated the situation. I've asked you to do something which you could not do, or the circumstances have changed, it was not possible. And here I become angry. It's my fault, not your fault. So I did ask you, and so it didn't happen. So it's my fault now if I become angry. I'm actually expressing that I'm stupid. That's what anger is. Or disappointment. It's another one. Or many people, they start their conversation by, it's very unfortunate. Everybody wants to have fortunate, not unfortunate. So it's ludicrous. Unfortunately, we repeat the same mistake. Well, of course, because reality is perpetual. So you and I and he and she also, whatever you and I and he or she do, we have the tendency of reproducing it, repeating it. On and on and on. So there is a consistency. If you really watch it and reflect upon it, your inner smile takes over. And then that is the ultimate flow of goodness. Yes, I was in a hurry. I wanted to get there, and I didn't notice that between here and there are obstacles. So I slipped, and I now curse the municipality for not fixing the road or something. No, it's yourself. How could you decide the exact timing and so on? Because we all want to be exact. We want to be precise. Because truth is precise. Infinitude is precise. But precision in the zone of space and time is not always attained. That's why we have, in Europe, if you look, the margin of error in terms of air transport, in terms of this, is very little. Because we want that instantly. And we have attained brilliant achievement as such, but that has become our objective of life. Whereas the objective is to be at one with perfect, ongoing, eternal life itself. In the meantime, to have these objectives are good because they are all exercises of cause and effect, subtler. And science is beginning now to go beyond its early, clumsy, stage of certainty. Physics was much easier 100 years ago. It's very tidy and neat and building block of atoms and molecules. And now it's beginning to recognize that there are many other factors that are not easily discernible by cause and effect. And in fact, the most important thing in our life now as technology is laser, and we don't know how it functions. If you watch the laser gun, it behaves differently than if you don't watch it. It's incredible. So science is beginning now to be slightly tolerant of the unseen, because people a few decades ago suffered a lot from the oppressive and depressive state of darkness, of the unseen. No, we want to know what is it seen. So we're moving closer and closer from sight to insights and other openings, you see. It's a wonderful time we're living in. And now Kuja Abad, which is the state that cannot be defined or confined, is our goal, is worth touching, tasting, being with. And that can only happen if we leave everything else beside. So the importance of deep, deep, deep meditation, reflection, silence, silence, silence. Then you begin to hear the silent voice of God. It doesn't make noise. So noise is made only in space. And you can't hear anything if it is vacuum. You can't hear it. So it needs medium. Once you have these basic sketches and maps, then you have little excuse in not blaming only yourself for not being present, and you have no excuse in other than acknowledging everything that as it is. And then you are beginning to be saved from the illusion of your own self by courtesy of your own soul. Very simple. It doesn't need 20 years on a mountaintop. It just needs you to be serious and be given a bit of time and space to enter into that sacred zone of quietness at every level. You can't enter quietness if you're overeating, if you're under-exercising, if you're not sleeping enough. Which is important also, but you need to try and try and try until such time you find that is your nature. Your nature is to be in mind, quiet and silent. That's called a healthy mind. In heart, to be pure and have no rancor, no fears, no jealousies. That's it. Because your heart is the house of your soul. It is a metaphoric statement. And your soul is who you are. And your lower self, the animal self or ego self, is the shadow of your soul. But the shadow only exists because there is some light. And it is through that that you move on to its origin, which is your own soul. So if you begin to wake up, you don't denounce anymore your ego even, or your lower self. You say, that's all what I knew before. And thank God that it was there. And I suffered from it a lot. It teased me. So it was my friend then. And now I know I can't touch it. It served its purpose. It's gone. The shell on the nut had fallen off, and the nut has grown and did its story. So each one of us has a story with a biographical beginning and end, and a truth of cosmic light that has no beginning nor end. That is the story of Nakuja Abad. If that is done, then nothing else matters as much. They do touch us as human beings, but they don't overwhelm. If it is not done, then one owes it to oneself. And most people, hurriedly, they blame everybody else except themselves. So charity begins at home. To be really kind and considerate and loving to yourself is that you are inseparable in that original love affair with your own soul. And that is your soul mate. If you are at ease with that, then you can be at ease with most other creations. If not, then you're trying to find somebody who is much better than you, more evolved than you. But that somebody is also looking for the same thing. So, oh, I really thought you knew what it was about. And he or she will say, no, but I thought you knew what it was. So we are all in deception. And we must really look at it, accept it, and laugh. And accept that ultimately it is to do with those silent gaps in between the noise. They reveal everything. They have truth in them. So does the noise, has truth in it. But you need now to calibrate with absolute truth. And that happens when there is no you anymore. There is only truth. You need good luck. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Bismillah. Allah. Allah.